It is a basketball show for the basketball fan. RJ Saunders here with you. This is the Open Gym, episode 3. Team USA has now won gold, thanks to the shoulders of Steph Curry, who had a monster performance against Serbia, and then a 2.5-minute explosion in the gold medal game against France. And it really put to bed that entire talk of Jayson Tatum playing or not on. There could be a few of us that still feel that Jayson Tatum not playing was a big story and that Steve Kerr may have had a low-key beef with him, or that there just could have been the fact that he does a lot of things well, but he doesn't do one thing great. He couldn't simply become a defender. I think that he would have wanted a lot of the scoring that he is able to do, whether that be one-on-one or in traffic. He would have wanted that to speak on the floor for Team USA, trying to emulate that of one of his heroes, Kobe Bryant, hence why he wore number 10 a la Kobe being Bryant. Also, there was an attitude that maybe he just couldn't be a spot-up shooter, such as a Derek White or a Drew Holiday or even a Devin Booker. Those guys were able to sell themselves out to the fact that when you have LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant on your team, 3 surefire first ballot Hall of Famers, you're going to have to take a back seat. Maybe it just wasn't Jayson Tatum's time right now. However, it could be his time to be that leader in the 2028 Olympics. And there's been a few names that have now come up as guys that could be headliners for Team USA in 2028 in my hometown of Los Angeles, California. And I think there's going to be a few new faces to the team that are going to join the likes of Anthony Edwards, Jayson Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Davis, and even Bam Adebayo. It's going to be interesting to see, but I've seen a lot throughout the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, whatever we're calling it now, of just the predictions for who is going to be on that team come 2028 in California. And there's just a couple that I want to go over. One being Ja Morant. Now, he's going to be about 29, 30 by the time we get to the Olympics in 2028. This guy's going to have to stay out of trouble. I think he's going to spend the first year coming back after this injury, and also the trouble that he had with the gun violence and the gun videos that sprung up everywhere. And that's one of the big pieces and reasons why he was in the headlines of a lot of news stories when it came to the sports world. He's going to have to spend a lot of time now trying to clean himself up on the basketball court. Don't know how long that's going to take. Don't know if the NBA is going to smite him on certain things in year one. Do they take away an all-star vote for him if he's not voted as a starter for the Western Conference All-Stars and he has to get in via the vote of the coaching staffs? Is the NBA going to deny him getting into an all-star game? Look, they already did so with the fact that he couldn't get a max extension when he got suspended for, I believe, those 25 games, because now the NBA is requiring you to at least spend 65 games on the floor in order to be eligible for an end-of-the-season award. But without question, this is one of the more electrifying guys that we have ever seen play in the NBA. And for the current generation of basketball players and young hoopers, Ja Morant is a guy that's going to be on your TV screen a lot. It's a la Allen Iverson. If you want to kind of make that comparison, he's kind of akin to him when Iverson was at the peak of his powers, and you saw just the culture shift and the culture change that happened, not only in the NBA, but how basketball was played for those guys who were smaller but had insane ability in other areas. Ja Morant could be a guy that we see on this team. However, he could be looked at as a third guard for Team USA, because you're going to have Jalen Brunson there. That's going to be my opinion on the matter. I think Jalen Brunson does make this team in 2028. And if Tyrese Halliburton is to come back, I think that's your starting point guard. Your backup will be Jalen Brunson. Your third guy will be Ja Morant. Or it could even be Tyrese Maxey, depending on whether or not they want to bring the Philadelphia 76ers guard in to be a part of that team. I do think that Team USA is going to look for a lot of glue guys instead of a lot of just superstar talent and superstar athletes, although that really does drive the team And we saw that here in these past Olympics. I do believe that Ja Morant could have a good opportunity to make the team. Another guy, we talk about him all the time, Paolo Banchero, who you could have argued could have made the team this past Olympics. If you're going to be looking for a guy that can average nearly a triple-double each and every time out for Team USA, with LeBron James, which you're assuming he was in his last Olympic tournament here for Team USA basketball-wise, look no further than Paolo Banchero. And no, I'm not calling him LeBron James, but I am saying that this is a guy that's a 3-level scorer. You heard Jamal Mosley during the regular season last year for the Orlando Magic. Here's a guy that can score like Carmelo Anthony. He can pass like LeBron James. He's a willing rebounder. You're going to need guys like that. You're going to need guys that are going to be great in multiple areas so that guys like Jayson Tatum may want to focus more on the scoring aspect than that of also passing the basketball as well as rebounding the basketball. Two things that Jayson Tatum can do. However, I do believe that Paolo Banchero, once he gets to Team USA, a guy Grant Hill does believe can do wonders for the red, white, and blue in Los Angeles, California, as they look to win another gold medal by that time. Look no further than the Orlando Magic superstar to be that guy, to be one of the headliners for the USA squad. This one's going to be interesting. Jaylen Brown, should he have been on the team this year? Maybe. Was it a problem that he wasn't? Of course. No, they won gold. But is he going to be a guy similar to Jayson Tatum, where you're going to say he's so hurt by the fact of him being denied being placed on Team USA that he ultimately says no? And let's just say within these next 4 years, the Boston Celtics ring off 1 or 2 more NBA titles. Does he say, you know what? I don't need a gold medal to my credit. I'm a 3-time NBA champ. I'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. My jersey number may get lofted into the rafters in Boston Garden. What do I need a gold medal for? At this point, you should have got me when I wanted to play on Team USA. And look, a lot of these guys do go to their resumes as far as why they should be on Team USA. Jaylen Brown, absolutely going to be no different. But at that time, for these past Olympics, you needed the glue guys, the guys who are saying that, look, we have great resumes ourselves, but the focus is winning that gold medal. So I had no problem with the fact that you elected to choose Derek White or that you had Drew Holiday. These guys aren't looking for the ball. These guys aren't looking to score 10-plus points a contest. These guys are going to be looking to do the dirty work in terms of defending the other team's best perimeter player, knocking down the open 3 and being a spot-up shooter, because those guys are 2 Boston Celtics guys that had to do that already with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum on their team. Can Jaylen Brown be that guy if he were to say in 2028, I'm going to play in the Olympics and I'm going to be that guy who's going to be the best perimeter defender? These guys love Kobe. You remember what happened in that Team USA documentary about the Dream Team. Kobe said, I wanted to defend. He wasn't really trying to be the team's best offensive player. He knew and when which he could do it, but he wasn't looking to do it all the time because he understood the other guys in which he had on his team. And those other guys that I had named beforehand, when you're talking about Tyrese Halliburton and you're talking about Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, and others that have been on the team that you're going to assume are going to be back on the team come 2028, those are going to be the guys who are going to be looked at to step up, to take that role of LeBron James, Stephen Curry, as well as Kevin Durant. It's going to be a big plate, but I do feel like they have the capacity to do it. So the guys that are going to be on that team in 2028, you're going to have to acquiesce to those guys anyway. And what Team USA is going to need are guys that are going to say, listen, I'm great in a lot of areas, but I'm going to be the strongest in this one, if it means at the end of the day we're going to win a gold medal. Cooper Flagg's probably going to be on this team as well. We mentioned Tyrese Maxey. Donovan Mitchell, who may be on this team in the next few years. Donovan Mitchell has yet to be placed on a Team USA Olympic squad looking to win gold. I wouldn't take his name out of the running. I wouldn't take his name out of the hat to be a guy that's going to be on this team next season, or in the next 4 years, rather. Was it a big story whether or not Jayson Tatum was on this team and was able to produce the way in which he wanted to? I don't think it was, because come 2028, if he elects to come back, he's going to be the guy that's going to lead this ship. Let that be part of the motivation here. But when it comes to the other guys, whoever gets on this team, even Zion Williamson, for instance, is that going to be a guy that they look at to say, we want this guy on the team to be a power forward? We're going to look at this guy over the next 4 years, and we're going to train him as to how USA basketball is played. You have the young guys. You have the talent. And Team USA, now with the old heads kind of going off into the wayside, driving off into the sunset, you're going to need the young guns to now prove their worth. And we named a lot of them. But can these guys now, the biggest question is, can these guys now put themselves in a position where they're playing we instead of running off the resumes and saying me? If they can do that, absolutely no question, we'll see another gold medal for Team USA. Let us know who you would like to see for Team USA come 2028. Put that down in the comments section below. We'd love to read it off next time we're out here, and hopefully you're in agreement or even disagreement. That's why we're here. That's why this is the Open Gym. But those are my opinions, and as always, we'd love to hear yours. Speaking of Team USA, I mean, they win gold again, thanks to the shooting of Steph Curry. However, there was this talk, this side story of Jayson Tatum, and he's not playing. And is it, a big deal, or is it not a big deal? I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And do you believe he's going to play for the team come 2028?
That's a really good question for both, by the way, him and Jaylen Brown.
Right.
Would very much be in the mix in 4 years from now, because obviously anybody who watched this team, as much fun as that was, and what a great experience it was to see, Durant and LeBron and Curry together and kind of playing at that level, almost, I'd say, a swan song for their career, but kind of, right?
Right.
They're not going to be there in 4 years. Maybe Durant, because the guy is just a baller, but maybe, and you're going to see this big changeover to a younger team. I think emotions cool down in 4 years. The role is bigger, and it's just hard for Tatum or any of these guys who are trying to promote their brand to walk away from this. This is such a huge national and international stage. Casual fans who are not huge basketball fans, people who don't watch a lot of basketball, get to watch Steph Curry do his thing and get an appreciation for it. So I think it's really hard for them to say no, but we'll see. We'll see where they are in 4 years. I don't think I thought it was a little odd at points with Tatum, didn't you? There was just not playing him against Serbia, where his defense and versatility would have been helpful, was weird. But I will add this to Kerr: too many good players.
Oh man,
it was the guy who doesn't play ends up being Tyrese Halliburton, who's an all-star and one of the up-and-coming best point guards in the league.
Right.
And the other part of that was Tatum. Dude struggled with his shot. Most of the playoffs and the finals, remember? This isn't new. His numbers were not great during the NBA finals. He was putting up volume. He was impacting the game. I don't want to say he wasn't, important, but his efficiency wasn't there. He is not a guy known for the kind of things Kerr really wants to, that off-ball movement that the U.S. and Curry obviously used to his advantage. Here, he wants that ball moving and players moving. That's not really who Tatum is. So I'm just not sure he meshed with Kerr. And 4 years from now, it won't be Kerr, probably. Right. It's most likely going to be Eric Spoelstra. Ty Lue's in the mix, but it's one of those two. But both of them run it's going to be more of a traditional NBA offense than what we saw from Kerr. I think it fits better.
Are there any names early on that you would like to see potentially on the team for 2028?
There's some really interesting ones. I mean, I think you'll see guys like Jalen Brunson. We could have, his leadership would be good there. He can certainly play at that level. And it was in the mix for this team. You'll see, I think it's Anthony Edwards' team.
Okay.
I think you'll see some other stars step up, but I think the one guy to really watch going to be Chet Holmgren. We're going to need Chet Holmgren in 4 years to match up with Wemby, right? Like,
Okay.
look, what stands between us and gold number 6 in a row is France. Victor Wemby in 4 years is going to be the best player walking the face of the earth. He is going to be the best player in that tournament in 4 years. And if any of their guards hit, whether it's Reza Shea or Koulibaly, who was on the team this year but didn't play much, Reza Shea, for people who don't know, was the number 1 pick this year.
Right.
There is a guy who's a 6'5" point guard who's going to be probably top 5 pick from France in this upcoming draft, which is a deeper draft than the last one.
Right.
Any of those guys really hit. There's some balance to that roster because it was Wembanyama and then, Evan Fournier. I mean, not to knock Yabusele, but like Fournier was their best outside player for a lot of the tournament. And FIBA Fournier is different, but it's not. If any of those guys really hit, if any of their guards really are there in 4 years, they are legitimately could come to America and do what we just did to them and take the gold on the home court. We're going to have to figure out how to match up. Bam can play again in 4 years. He'll only be 30 or 31,
right.
Which is kind of crazy because he's been around forever.
Yeah.
But I think Chet's going to be key, and I think you're going to see some of these other guys rising stars. And you know who'll be the young stud on next team is probably Cooper Flagg. He'll be a couple years into his NBA career,
right.
And I could totally see him there.
Absolutely. Kurt Helin, our guest at Basketball Talk. If you want to follow him on X, he is the lead NBA writer as well as managing editor at NBCSports.com. Now shifting our attention to the NBA. The schedules were released yesterday. Just wanted to know who's going to be your league pass team this year.
That's a really good question because who's going to be entertaining? It might be Houston. They kind of were really good at the end of last season. They are athletic and fun to watch and up and down. So that's and in a conference where every game's going to matter, and they're not seen as a playoff team, but I think that they and San Antonio, probably not better than play-in teams in the West, but they could actually make it interesting on the back end.
Yes.
And then I have to think about that. I hadn't really thought that part through yet. Like, who's the up and coming? Orlando did a little of that last year.
I was going to say, Orlando. Do you like Orlando?
I do. I wish they're really the point guard, the secondary shot creator becomes the thing they really ultimately
right.
have to find. If you watched them last year during the playoffs or especially during the regular season, it just needs somebody to organize the offense a little bit. And as great as Paolo Banchero is, today's NBA, basketball period, you've got to have multiple shot creators. And Franz Wagner can step in and do some stuff off the dribble, but they need somebody who can kind of come in and be that team's organizing force. And I'm not sure who that is for them, who they're going to get. I don't know that there's a guy. Maybe there's somebody in this draft, but they're too good to be drafting in a spot to get those guys now anyway, so they're going to have to find them in free agency
right.
Or a trade. But they need to get somebody. But I still think that is an up-and-coming, entertaining team in a conference where, look, New York's going to be good, obviously, and Boston and Philadelphia is going to be fun to watch. But they're going to be good. How good is up for debate? Milwaukee's right there. I mean, but in the mix of that, they're as good as they can hang with that second tier. Like, I don't know that they're ready to go to the finals, but that's a good team, man. It's a really good team.
I really like that Orlando Magic team. I really do feel like Paolo Banchero is going to take the next step.
Talk about a guy who's going to have a big role in 2028 in LA. Like the guy should have popped into my head and didn't, because he chose to play for us over Italy. He will have a big role in 4 years.
Absolutely. I'm going to love to see what he does this season. Hopefully he also gets a spot with the USA team in 2028, just staying kind of inside the NBA. I mean, there's going to be a lot of storylines. Orlando Magic, do they take the next step? Ja Morant, what's going to become of him and, the Memphis Grizzlies this year as he's coming back from injury. JJ Redick, now the head coach of my Los Angeles Lakers, and I do not know how to feel about that still. Maybe you can give me some insight on that. And then, the Boston Celtics, can they repeat as champions? But, is there a storyline that intrigues you going into this season?
Yeah, but by the way, the whole league should give Steve Kerr a big middle finger somewhere. The last thing you need to do was take the defending national world champion, NBA champion, clearly the best team last year in the Boston Celtics, and then give Tatum and Brown real motivation going into next season.
Oh, it's gonna be
the whole thing just fires them up going into next season. Thanks, Steve. I think for your Lakers, Redick's going to have. I think he can do the job. I think there's going to be growing pains. I don't think he's going to be bad, but I don't, especially with they brought in Nate McMillan and really good assistant coaches.
Yeah, Scott Brooks.
Yeah, exactly, Brooks. So, I don't think they're going to be bad. The problem with the Lakers is simply this. LeBron James looks great in the Olympics when he can be the tone setter like he was with the Lakers last year.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. He had to play 25 minutes a night with no travel, right? That's different than 30-plus a night with travel over the 82-game marathon. And the Lakers very much last year, he set the tone for them too. The games he was really driven, or the parts of games where he was really driven, they were good, but you can't ask him to do that, and they don't have anybody. D'Angelo Russell. So I am concerned about them going into this season, and it's more about what Rob Pelinka did than J.J. Redick.
Okay.
You, though, mentioned one of my favorite storylines, which is everybody's sleeping on Memphis.
Oh,
Memphis
my gosh.
50-plus win, force of nature, 2 years in a row, and they still – remember, they added Marcus Smart.
Why are people forgetting about this?
I think – the only question I've got for them is that Steven Adams played a key role for them, and they're asking rookie Zach Edey to step in to that spot. And rookies are rookies. It's nothing against Zach Edey, who might be a smart bet for Rookie of the Year for the betting people out there, just because he's going to be in the middle of a winning team and get opportunities. That said, if he can be competent, which I think watching Zach Edey play both in college and then I saw him at Summer League, and I'm like, he's 7'4", and he knows he's 7'4", and there's just something to that, right? There's just something knowing, I'm big, and this is what I have to do. And he went back to college, and he got his footwork better, his movement better. He really took advantage of that year, and I think it'll pay off. So anyway, I think he steps in as competent. That team's top 4, top 5 in the West. That is a really good team with Desmond Bane and everything, and I think that's one of the storylines that I think a lot of people – I'm seeing so many people have them as a play-in team, and I'm like,
what?
They bounced back. I think they're more than that. I think that they're a locked, if they can, everybody's got questions, and the West is deep, and there's just no margin for error in this West.
Right.
And that said, I think they're a top 6 team, and they're both dangerous, and any team with John Morant is just so entertaining to watch. He remains just maybe the league pass guy that makes me stop and go, John's playing. I'll watch him for a while.
Absolutely. Kurt Helin, our guest at Basketball Talk on X, the lead NBA writer as well as managing editor at NBCSports.com. Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, 2 names reportedly that could be on the move. You had Brian Windhorst talk about Jonas Valanciunas could be potentially flipped by Washington come the trade deadline. We really thought Trae Young was going to be moved, but it seems like neither San Antonio nor the Lakers, the 2 teams that were reported as the leaders in the clubhouse, elected just to kind of stand pat. San Antonio goes with Chris Paul. It doesn't seem that there's any sort of market for D'Angelo Russell in terms of trade. So who are a couple of names that you're looking at to where you're saying, I think these guys are going to be moved before the deadline?
I'll put Brandon Ingram in there. He is part of the problem with Atlanta was teams would call. There'd be conversations. They'd be like, well, Trae Young, what do you think? And they'd all go, yeah, about DeJounte Murray. Everybody wanted DeJounte Murray.
Right.
He lands in New Orleans, where he is an interesting fit in their backcourt, but I think he and Ingram, different positions and slightly different styles, but sort of similar games.
Right.
And I just don't see the fit. And I know they wanted to move him this summer, and there weren't great options, but I think you'll see that at the deadline. Zach LaVine, by the way, remains available, but good luck with that.
Good luck.
Yeah. Those are both, by the way, the problem with Brandon Ingram is not his play. It is the same thing as Zach LaVine, which is Ingram is in the last year of his contract. Zach LaVine's got 138 left.
Right.
But they're both the kind of guys in the new CBA with much harsher penalties for being above the second apron, just in terms of team building. So if you're deep into the tax, it's just really hard to keep your team together. And so teams are really careful now they're thinking about that. You can do couple max contracts, and you get to a third one or a third big one. And so teams are it really puts you into that tax. So teams are just being really careful, like, hey, we've been kind of giving these away. Should we be giving these away? Should we be, should we got to think this through? And what are these guys doing to contribute to winning? And both with Ingram and Zach LaVine, it's kind of like they're great volume scorers. They are all-star level players, but are they the max guys I want to build around? Like they're
right.
There's just like, are they doing enough to win? Can I build a true winner contender around them? And it's not like Tatum, who we talked about earlier. It was like, obviously you can build a winner around Tatum because you just did, but so it's not even, you don't even blink giving him a max.
Right.
You're going to pause with those two guys and like, hey, what can I get them that is a better number? And that conversation can be awkward for a group of, those two guys are the poster children for the people who are going to be the players who are going to find their market not where they expected it in the CBA. But they're both available. And Ingram, I still think Ingram ultimately gets moved because the guy's a bucket. And at the end of the day, so after injuries or looking at their roster in training camp, somebody's going to want that.
Absolutely. Final couple of questions, final couple of moments with Kurt Helin at Basketball Talk on Twitter. Got to bring the hard-hitting question to the table because you were the first guy I thought about when I looked at the new media contract agreement, and the NBA is coming back to NBC. Are we seeing Kurt Helin at the desk? Is he going to be the new Tom Tolbert, Peter Vesey? I mean, there's a lot of great guys who we saw at that desk for NBC. Ahmad Rashad even comes to mind. Are we seeing Kurt Helin at the desk next year?
I don't know that that's happening. I don't know that that's. I don't know that the world. I don't know that me and my face on TV is good for the network.
Come on.
But, certainly roles will be changing, and there's going to be signings and additions, and all of this happens way over my head on some of the hires and stuff. I am when NBC invested $2.5 billion a year in the NBA, they didn't call me up and consult on that. I don't get called in on the 2.5. I don't. Yeah, I also They don't call me on that. They didn't call me to pick contestants for Love Island. They don't call me on that stuff. So I know it's crazy.
Well, how do you feel about the NBA coming back to NBC?
But I should say that I'm really excited. I think I think our production values for what we can do, what we've done with Sunday Night Football, and you can transfer that kind of feel and vibe over to NBA broadcast. I think is going to be great. I think it's going to be a great partnership, and I think we saw a start of that with just what was in the booth in Paris with the Olympics. Yeah. I'm sure they're talking. I know Noah Eagle's under contract with us because he does some Notre Dame and some Big Ten football stuff as well. He's an up-and-coming and brilliant play-by-play guy who I thought really nailed it. I love the chemistry with him and D Wade.
Oh, yes.
I thought their in-booth chemistry was fantastic. Yeah. So, I think that they've got an idea of what they want to do and where they want to go, and I'm happy to play whatever role they ask, man.
Absolutely. He is Kurt Helin at Basketball Talk on Twitter, lead NBA writer, as well as managing editor at NBCSports.com. And hopefully we see him on our TV screens. Thanks again to Kurt Helin for joining us on the show, giving us insight to what potentially could be a role for him on the NBA on NBC now that it's going to be back on the airwaves just a year from now after this season. Going to be sad to see the NBA on TNT going away, but the NBA on NBC back. Let us know how you feel in the comments section there. Final thing before we get out of here, Jeff Teague pointed out something that I wanted to talk about. Steph Curry, we understand that he had a great Olympics with Team USA and had the 2.5-minute just onslaught against France. But this guy's a 4-time NBA champion, and on his podcast, Jeff Teague believes that if Curry is to win one more, he should be amongst the pantheon of that of Kobe Bryant. Now, I'm trying to figure out what that means. Does that mean that Curry is now top 5? Does it mean he's top 3? Does it mean he's top 2? Because that is kind of the list in which Kobe is in. Everybody's always going to say he's top 10, but you do have a few that say he's top 5, some who say he's top 3, and some say that he is behind the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Without question, Steph Curry has changed, kind of like John Morant is, if he can now be on the straight and narrow for the remainder of his career. But Steph Curry, one of the guys that really changed the whole makeup of the NBA and how basketball is played, being an undersized guy that can shoot from 30, 40, maybe even 42 feet from behind the arc. And in an era that was dominated by a LeBron James, or looked at as a LeBron James era, here's a guy who won 4 championships in that era. Now, I do understand that there are probably going to be those that will say Tim Duncan did the same thing in the self-proclaimed Kobe era, although Kobe Bryant did have a couple of teams that just weren't very good there in 2005, 6, as well as 7. You can make the argument that Steph Curry also had Kevin Durant on his team for 2 years when they won back-to-back titles, but LeBron James was in finals year after year after year after year, and he's only come away with 4 NBA championships himself. And Steph Curry has been seen as probably the second most dominant player in this new era after, the guys like Kobe and Kevin Garnett and Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson all walked into the sunset. It was LeBron James's town. You had great guys such as Kevin Durant, really wasn't able to get over the hump until he decided to join the Golden State Warriors. Dwayne Wade had to team up as well with LeBron James. Russell Westbrook really never able to get over the hump. James Harden not able to get over the hump. Steph Curry was a guy who did, and he did that 4 times in an era that was supposed to be dominated by LBJ. Now, here's going to be a guy that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, the greatest shooter of all time until said or seen otherwise, until we find another guy that's going to provide outstanding records from beyond the arc. And look, we probably thought that after Ray Allen and Reggie Miller, we'd never see another great shooter of that magnitude. He broke the mold. Will there be another guy? Maybe, because that's how dominant Steph Curry has been, and that's how much in which he has changed the game. But let me get to the point of order here as to, will Steph Curry win another championship to be in that pantheon or in that talk with Kobe Bryant? Still don't understand what that means, but if it does mean that this guy is going to be a top 5 player or a top 10 player of all time, number one, I think he's already there. So that's number one. Number 2, I just don't think the Golden State Warriors are going to allow this guy to win another NBA championship. Now, we said that before. We thought the window had closed for the Golden State Warriors. They faced a Boston team in the NBA Finals and thought the Boston Celtics are going to win their first NBA championship. And Steph Curry went absolutely bonkers in that NBA Finals series, leading the Golden State Warriors to their 4th NBA championship, finally winning the NBA Finals MVP award, which you could have argued he could have won it after the first title that they had won against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he finally gets that trophy that had eluded him in 3 NBA Finals prior. But it seems that the Warriors are going to be looking towards the future, if you ask me. It seems like they want to look at guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and others instead of trying to build at least one more championship contender around Steph Curry. This is going to be a play-in team. I think they're going to find themselves in the mix for the play-in once again, but to have to play 2 more games for your life just to get into a 7-game series as an 8 or a 7 seed, there's a lot to put on the body of a guy such as Steph Curry. And look, we listened to it from Kurt Helin. Kurt Helin says LeBron James looked phenomenal when he played for Team USA. The caveat, he's playing 25 minutes and doesn't have to travel. They're playing in one arena for over, 2.5 weeks? Steph Curry was able to do the same thing. Travel's going to get involved. You do have the All-Star break, which people now look at as a break instead of looking at it as a competition. This Golden State Warriors team in a West that's getting better is going to have a difficult time getting into the playoffs via the play-in. But if Stephen Curry doesn't win another ring, I think he's in that conversation already of being a top 10 player of all time. And it has been a joy to watch this guy play the game of basketball. And what was a weird thing is I have watched this guy kill the Los Angeles Lakers and other teams for years. It was kind of cool cheering for him when he was playing out there against Serbia and playing out there against Greece and playing against France en route to a gold medal. And you're able to cheer for the guy who has broken the hearts of so many organizations and so many other players in the NBA during his time. Without question, a top 10 talent, but unfortunately, winning one more just may not be in the cards for the babyface assassin. That's going to do it for us. John O'Leary's been the man behind the camera, and we have been doing this now for 3 whole weeks, and we're going to do one again for you next week where we're going to look into the NBA schedule. Looking forward to having the likes of an Orlando Magic guest to break down the Magic schedule, maybe look across the league at some other NBA teams and look at their schedule as well with a NBA national guest to kind of give us the breakdown into the national games with, the Lakers and Warriors playing on Christmas. Does anybody want to watch that? I'm a Lakers fan. I don't know if I want to watch that. But we'll find out what is to come. The NBA season will be here before we know it. So for John O'Leary, I'm RJ Saunders. This is Open Gym.